this is the first, kickoff of our office hours here for talk about CMMC, and it's just going to be a free form discussion. The intention is just have you all come ask questions on. I'm a certified assessor and a CMMC instructor as well. So I teach the CCP, CCA classes, and and have done 4 joint surveillance assessments so far, and dozens and dozens of gap assessments, and working with companies, helping them get ready, that sort of thing. So seen a lot of it, know what the assessor's perspective on the CMC controls are. So questions about that, questions about how we get ready for our CMC assessments, as MSPs, that's all fair game. So with that, and we're going to record everything, transcribe everything, so that we can try to share anything that comes out of these with the rest of the community as well. So with that, who has the first question? Who wants to talk, or a topic you want to talk about? That's fine too. What's your hottest topic, Matt?
I mean, I would say, just so Chad and Steve have my background as well. So I am Matt Ventura. I work with M&S Group, and I'm also a CCA. I've been on a joint surveillance voluntary assessment. I have a couple others that are pending. So yeah, but right now, I think that the questions that I'm coming across as an MSP are the same that everybody else is. Even being a CCA, there's still questions up in the air. How are MSPs going to be able to actually get assessed? And just things like that. Like what tools are we actually going to be able to use? Because the limitation with FedRAMP. I mean,
right.
There are a lot of these software developers that are saying, hey, we're not going to even bother trying to do FedRAMP, or we haven't had anyone that wants to sponsor us or whatever. But there are ways around it. They're not fun ways. But it's going to be interesting to kind of see once the final rulemaking has completed and everything is live, and just how what the acceptable solutions are for MSPs, really.
That's true. That will be challenging. So let's just to kind of unpack a couple of those things. So first, I've got that question a lot about how does an MSP get an assessment today if they wanted to, right? And the answer is there's not really a good path, because joint surveillance assessments, the way the DCMA, the Defense Contract Management Agency, is selecting companies, they're only doing companies that have active DoD contracts. So unless your MSP is currently under a subcontractor, or God forbid you are prime, it's possible, I suppose. But if you're actually a subcontractor and you have a formal subcontract that actually flows down from the DoD, then you could actually be eligible for a joint surveillance assessment. But other than that, there's really no path. And it is problematic, right? Because if the whole rule, we're assuming too, because of so with respect to the proposed rule to the final rule, the speed with which they adjudicated all the comments indicates to those of us who are maybe a little skeptical and about what they could have done in that time frame, believe that nothing would have changed substantially. So and based on indications that we've gotten from organizations or not organizations, but individuals in the DoD CIO shop, unofficial rumor kind of things are that they are so over the top paranoid about the problems and I shouldn't say that's a bad way to say it, right? But they're really scared. Let's just say it this way, that they are going to that the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base, is where they're going to lose all of the warfighting capability, right? And they're really scared about that. So, and because of some of the events, right, things like SolarWinds, the Kaseya problem, things that have happened in the past and things that happened more recently, um, I don't see them changing the fact that they're going to want MSPs to be certified, and they're going to want all the tools being used that have potential cybersecurity impact on CUI. They want all those things locked down, and they want to have have real good assurance. So I don't think they're going to come off the FedRAMP issue for security protection data, for example. I'll be happy if they do, because I am fearful about some things that we can talk about later, but how it's going to kind of drive us back and takes good security solutions out of the hands of OSCs and kind of drive security back a little bit. But that's my personal paranoia that that's what's going to happen. So with that, I think we are going to require MSPs. We're going to have MSPs are going to be required to be CMMC level 2. They're going to have a tool suite that is capable, either capable of in their hands being CMMC level 2, part of a CMMC level 2 environment, or be FedRAMP authorized if it's a cloud-based solution. So I don't see a way around it right now. So when I am advising companies on how to get ready, whether they're MSPs or OSCs, I am telling them the most conservative, safest route is to find alternative solutions, right? It's a journey, and talk to the vendors, find out where they are in their journey towards FedRAMP, right? I know Matt and I actually had a conversation with Kaseya, and Kaseya has stood up on a stage and said they're investing in getting their products FedRAMP authorized. I don't know where that project is, but it's going to take them a long time, right? Because they're just starting that journey, and that is a journey. It's probably at least a year's worth of work, if they can even get there, right? I mean, there may be some major overhaul, assuming that they did everything right along the way. But it's a different regimen they have to go through. So it's going to be a challenge for any vendor to start from ground zero and get to FedRAMP authorized in a time frame that's going to be helpful, right? So anyway, so there's that. So my best advice to MSPs then is to connect up. Well, first of all, my best advice is to join the MSP Cybersecurity Exchange. So tell all your friends, come in and join, and start having these dialogues, right? And start to get advice, get advice from the rest of the community, get advice from cybersecurity professionals that are in the mix here on this. I mean, I'm going to be doing these office hours now going forward every week, twice a week. So we'll try to address questions there. We'll be addressing different topics on the forum and trying to get some solutions out there for folks. So you got to get yourself jump started, bootstrapped, whatever, any way you can. Yeah. So I don't know, Matt, and it doesn't help much, but that's kind of just putting your fears in perspective.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, as you're aware, since you've worked fairly closely with us, we have tried to take everything in-house basically at this point. So yeah. We're hosting our own RMM, PSA, all of that. Doing that in Azure Government, migrating our own tenant or our own Microsoft tenant into GCC. We're well into the process of becoming CMMC level 2 certified for our MSP business. I think that one of the difficulties that MSPs are going to have is figuring out what their scope is, because that hasn't, from what I can recall, that hasn't really had any guidance released on it. Because I mean, scoping for an MSP, the MSP themselves, they're not really gonna have any CUI, and that's what CMMC is about, is protecting CUI. So, in theory, some may think that the scope would just be their RMM tool, because that's all that is technically connecting to or has access to the client's environment and all of that. Others, they may go the whole distance and put their entire organization in scope. So I'd be curious what your thoughts on that are, Brian, as far as scoping goes for MSPs.
Yeah. So I think there are two. I'm so Steve, you're going to.
Well, I'd just love to chime in on that. This happens to be relevant at this time. So internally at Agile IT, we obviously are in the same mix. We're looking at the same thing. So we traditionally sold off our MSP practice. This is pre-pandemic, and focused purely on, we were one of the first AOSG partners. So we were able to sell GCC high licensing and really had a large, I won't call them fan base, but a easy onboarding of people, organizations seeking compliance. OSCs found us because there was only a few of us out there that could offer that. So we built a very, very, very strong business on onboarding, implementing onboarding security practices, getting the tenants somewhat secure, that meets part of the recommendations in the 800-171, as customers had some of their requirements aligned. And it was really easy. The thing is, as an organization, we also want to be able to have recurring business. That goes without saying. As an IT services, you can onboard forever, but at some point in time, you've onboarded them all. So we said, okay, well, now we want to get back into the MSP business, cloud MSP business, purely from a compliance perspective. It happened to be, we're about 2 years into scoping this. So as the updated rulemaking came out, I think that was Christmas time last year, or holiday time last year, and we've all been in this rat race. How do we get there? We're reimagining the whole process. You know, we've been a auto task shop, data. I personally, Agile IT, I flew around the world for Microsoft talking about 365 best practices. And I'm a huge Kaseya fan, so it's great to hear you. But we're trying to figure out, how do you deliver that in a manner that you can, like you said, we're not going to have CUI, we're not going to have CFI, but how do we make sure our customers that we want to support, we're not the reason they fail. We're not the reason that there's a security breach. So we're looking at every which way, and something we're looking at now, and I'll toss it out asking for your feedback, but hoping this helps another organization who's going down the same thing that clearly Matt's doing and we're doing now. We're considering changing the whole way we operate to say, every time we might get an alert saying that there is an issue at Matt's OSC shop, but we can't get any data out of that alert, just saying there's an alert, then we're going to have to authenticate whatever our engineer is listed inside of that contract. Potentially is going to have to authenticate to that tenant, do all work in that tenant, document in that tenant.
Yeah.
It's not double work, but basically doing everything within the boundary of that tenant. So we're written into their boundary, but in that tenant, so we can't have our devices connected to that tenant. Our data their data can't leave their tenant and potentially reach another tenant, or even our own. So trying to look at it from that way, and I'll happily present that model not by Thursday's office hours, but next Tuesday or next Thursday.
Cool.
And so we can kind of look at it. I would love to share that with, and we can feel free to tear it apart and say, maybe this could work, because I'm trying to figure out, boundary is the key thing.
Yes.
Boundary, not just our boundary, our reach, customer's boundary. How do you make sure that our reach can't go from one boundary to the other and possibly mix up data? So we're really looking at that and looking at it from a security perspective, and then can it operate compliant for the customer? And then how can we document that? And wondering now, talking to somebody like yourself, since you're an assessor, what would be in scope? What is that boundary? So there's a lot we've modeled, and I think that it's ready to be presented, and I'd happily share it with this community.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, no, that's perfect. You know, you guys are bringing up a great point, right? On what does the boundary really mean, right? And from client to client, it might be different. right? You might be offering different services and different capabilities into different clients. So it was one of my big arguments in the proposed rule when I put in my comments was having a MSP certified at CMMC level 2 tells you that the MSP has done some good stuff and that internally they have their act together, right? It doesn't tell you a single thing about how they deliver services to the client, right? So it doesn't tell you that the services that they're going to provide to the OSC are actually secure because they're certified. They've certified their internal systems. Maybe they didn't even certify the MSP delivery system. With the RMMs and everything else. Maybe not even part of that scope. So I think it's really critical. That's why we started a project to talk about shared responsibility matrices and how you describe your services and how those services are delivered, so that the OSC can then use that information and understand, their roles and your roles. And so that boundary, I think it's going to be sort of this jagged dynamic line on the outside of the boundary, right? That is the connection point to the OSCs. If we can get all of that stuff into the CMC assessment boundary, then we can talk about it. The challenge is going to be, how do the controls apply to each of the different services, right? And so as an assessor, that's kind of what I'm trying to wrap my mind around, and it seems to be a bowl of jello trying to wrap around it, is what control. So if you're just talking about the RMM service, what controls apply to that, and what happens on the OSC boundary, what happens on the MSP boundary, right? So what can be inherited, what can't, right? So what are those what do I want to say? Those parameters, I guess, of what would be the OSC's responsibilities versus the MSPs. So I think it's going to be, I think it's a real challenge, and it's something that it's one of the things that we really do need to kind of work through and talk through it. And we may have to talk through it in just thinking out loud, we may have to just talk through it service by service and say, again, I'm going to provide, system, just pure, system admin, creating new accounts and things like that. How do I do that? How do I go into, do I remote desktop into the client's environment and create it in their environment? Do I do it through some other tool, some provisioning tool? What do I do? How do I do it? So no answers, but real challenges. Right? Yeah, good. That's good. That's good. Good stuff. So I'm thinking about a lot of posts on Slack that either you guys will do or I'll do based on this video, based on that discussion we just had.
So just similar but different, going back to the OSC side, not the MSP side. So what we spend a lot of time doing, because we are at the transactional level with the customer, we traditionally have not done the gap analysis. We'll pull somebody else in that can do the gap analysis. We'll pull somebody else in that helps them with their writing of their SSP if they don't have it. So we are at the implementation side. And as a result of, and I'm a registered practitioner, but I've been in this arena for a while. I spend so much time on the consultative edge and leading our implementation. I get a lot of should we's, could we's, and is it best practice too? I try to answer those the most politically correct way. I can implement it, but I like the customer to at least have their design. It's like building a house without a blueprint.
Yes.
It literally, I work with, hundreds of the OSCs, and it's amazing to me how few of them actually have gone through the process and procedural documentation perspective. They just say, I want my compliance. And it's, well, I can't give you compliance. I wish I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compliance also is not a destination. It's how you operate in a compliant manner. And a lot of it is build me to spec without a spec. So just, there are some settings and configurations that can work towards instituting good hygiene and good behavior, but we deal with this a lot, and I just wish that there was a better reference, and hopefully this is a big part of it for OSCs that are just it's out there and don't know. And I attend a lot of events in the DC area with a lot of DoD contractors that are either unaware, not paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
or don't care today
Yeah.
about the entire. They don't care about compliance at all, which is amazing to me. All I want is my dollar. I want my dollar.
Yep.
I want to
Yep.
continue to get my dollar. So it's going to be an onslaught, as we know. But it's going to be so much education on us as the community that hopefully we don't end up missing the sale because we're trying to educate and somebody else swoops in. But I do think that as a whole, we need to make sure that education for OSCs to adopt those that are not so mature, because there's a lot of them out there, and I hope that we can together become a really strong voice for a lot of OSCs that are just lost out there, because it's amazing how many, and I engage with them, like I said,
Yep.
each month is so many new OSCs, and I'm just like, how are you here and
Yeah.
don't know a thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it happens all the time, and people will look at it as if they want the checkbox. They just, oh, how do I get the certificate? But they don't look at what is it. What does cybersecurity mean to my business, right? So they don't look at the holistic picture. They only look at how do I get my little compliance check mark, and that's one of the dangers with this with 800-171, right? It's focused purely on the confidentiality of CUI.
Yep.
And what I tell people, my advice when I'm going in and doing just pure consulting is don't build a security program based on complying. Build a security program based on what your business needs.
Mhm.
Use the compliance framework to inform how you're going to do certain things. But it's my soapbox item, which is don't build a security program for compliance. Comply as a result of a good security program, right? So that's that's the key, and it's just it's an education. It's a process. And again, at the board level, it has to start way at the top. It has to start at the owners. It has to start at the board level, that they appreciate and understand the issue. I had a client that just backed out of doing CMMC. Well, they've sort of backed out of doing CMMC. They were well underway. They were all the way. They were even building a GCC high enclave. They're heading down that path. They spent a ton of money. They had an ITAR consultant that went to an Air Force base and got a briefing on CMMC from some contracting officer that probably had never seen it before. And they said, oh, don't worry about CMMC. Level 1 is self-assessment is all you're ever going to be required. And so the ITAR consultant came back and told the CEO of this company, and the CEO of this company said, oh, we're going to believe that message because we like that message. So we're not going to spend any more money on this. Stop everything. We're not going to worry about compliance. Like, okay, good luck to you is all I can say, and everybody else on that Air Force base, because they're going to all be screwed when all the stuff starts showing up and they find out that they can't win contracts. But yeah, it's a real challenge. And for the MSP community, I think that we're hearing lots of rumblings, and I think this is my personal belief is that within the next 5 years, MSPs will more or less, or in essence, be considered by DHS and other federal agencies as critical infrastructure. And as a result of that, the MSP industry is going to be regulated on its own. Forget about DoD here, DHS there, kind of thing. I think there's going to be regulations coming down on the MSP community, not just for not just for DoD and federal contracts, but across the board. Like Federal Trade Commission is going to start waking up and realizing that all the people they're worried about are actually using external service providers, and those external service providers need to help cybersecurity compliance. So I think it's going to just expand, which is another reason why in the MSPCyberX we're focused heavily on CMMC, but we're not limited to CMMC because you all are dealing with so many other regulations. We have to be ready for all of this stuff. So.
Not specifically. I'm just really, soaking up the information. You guys sounds like you're, a few steps ahead of us. Also with an MSP, we just recently spun up our maintenance agreements, our compliance agreements, and we're just getting our customers towards that CMMC level 1 and level 2s. Excellent. So just being on these calls and hearing what you guys have going on has been, really eye-opening. Taking a lot of notes, essentially.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's cool. That's good use. And that's you did bring up a good point there. The agreements is another key thing, and it's one of the reasons that another benefit of doing the shared responsibility matrix, right? It helps you build that service level agreement or that agreement with the OSC to know what your responsibilities are and what theirs are, so you don't get sued. With these lawsuits that are happening, and companies that get had are coming after their MSP because the MSP is the one that does that for us. So your customers need to know what their responsibilities, what they're responsible for, and what you are responsible for. Because as MSPs, you can't do it all. If they don't educate their users, and their users are bringing in malware and antivirus, malware and ransomware in the emails, you not a lot you can do about it except hopefully they have bought the right tools to stop it. But it's not, if it's in your agreements, you're not going to be liable for all of that stuff. So that the OSCs are doing to you. So another important piece, having the right agreements in place.
I have a general question about this community in general, like not specific to what we're talking about today. I know there are a lot of different rooms, and I love the layout, the way you built out the foundation of it. But in terms of being able to find others in our industry that complement our skills, or if we're looking for additional, where is the right appropriate channel to say, hey, I have this, I need a partner that can help with XYZ? Which channel would that be, or should I put it in general, or is that something when I say
I guess I would start it in sort of the general discussion, just hashtag general or in there, and float it out there. And if it becomes a topic, that like a general, something that could be more generalized, maybe we'll spin off another channel or something.
Yep.
But I'd at least start asking the questions there in either the diner general, over in the diner, or general.
The diner hall.
That might be a good place to do it.
I didn't want to potentially put something out there. I'm looking for another company that can help with this, and that would just become like an open, a job board can get really loud, and you might miss some valuable content elsewhere.
Yeah. So diner general that'd be a good thing to start up in the diner. We don't have anything going over there right now, so that's
awesome.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Have any of you checked out? Just curious. Have any of you checked out the canvases at this point? Do you even know that those exist?
I just saw you talking about them last Tuesday on the meeting. I have not. I haven't found them yet.
Okay, let me see. Can I do that? Let's see. See how I can best show you that. Yeah. It's because luckily Matt brought to my attention that because I'm just learning Slack along with everybody else, but I had, before I went live, I had it all laid out in what I thought this is just brilliant. This is, I have these groups of channels and things all laid out and that sort of thing. And then Matt, when I talked about that with Matt, and he says, what are you talking about, Brian? We discovered that, I can see it, but nobody else can. So I needed something else. They have this concept called canvases, and what I'm going to do here, let me turn the canvas off, and I'll show you where it is. All
I
right, so
thought it's just me that
this
didn't
is what
understand.
this is what. Can you see it?
How do you
Okay.
get the canvases?
So this is the what my Slack looks like. So there's a whole bunch of channels that are out there, right? And see what I did is I grouped them. I had these groups, and I thought, oh, that'll show up on everybody's dashboard, but they don't. So what I did was I created these canvases. So if you go to is it getting everything? Yeah. If you go up here to if you go to like the town square general, and there's other places you can find canvases. Up in the right-hand corner, there's this little icon, and that's for canvases. If you open that up, then you can see that this is the the canvas for the general discussion. I made that sort of the master canvas, right? So there's a bulletin board. Here's the CMMC corner, workshop, and that sort of thing. And what we're going to do is keep that current so that if you open one of these up, and I think I'm going to have to share a different window because I shared window specific. Opening a new window. That's going to take it away from you guys. All right, I'm going to open CMC corner in a new window, and then I'm going to share a different window. Okay, yeah, it went over there. That's great. Stop sharing that. Start sharing the other window that just opened. CMC corner. So here you can kind of see what the makings of the CMC corner, and then kind of give you pointers to the channels. What we're going to do is kind of have related news, highlights from the channels. What are the current activities and things going on? They're trying to make it a little bit easier for everybody to go to. But again, if you go to that upper corner, so if you click on one of these, it'll take you to the channel, and then you can see whatever's going on in that channel. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, and I'm hoping I can figure out some way to make it display a little bit easier without having to go through a couple of gyrations. But Slack doesn't have a pretty user interface that I can do that on. So this is the best I could come up with. And then on the bulletin board, what we're going to do there. I hope it blows it out to another screen. All right. Well, what we're going to do on the bulletin board is we're going to kind of have make it like a weekly reader board. I'll try to collect up. Actually, I'll have my researcher will keep an eye on everything that's going on. Try to find highlights from the different boards. Put it on here so that there's one place you can go to find out. Okay, what and all the dozens of channels that are active. What are the highlights? And what should I go see? What should I go take part of? So that's what we'll try to do over on the bulletin board. All right. Is that helpful? I think, Steve. Think that'll help?
If I wasn't muted, you could hear me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually like, damn, I saw the navigation last week. Mine doesn't quite look like that, but maybe I'm just new to Slack.
Yeah, well,
I've used it for projects, but specific channels only. But no, that helps with navigation.
Yeah. Apparently, if you go I'm not sharing my screen anymore. But let me get back to sharing that. Like to create these these little groupings. You just basically it's create create a section, and then you can group the different channels. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to make that push the sections out to all the users. And there may even be channels, is this? I think this was right, Matt. You said you actually don't see the channels unless you physically go in and join them.
Yeah. You have to go to the if you click on channels and then manage and browse channels, or any of the channels in there, I think you can or sorry, any of the sections, if you right click on them and go to manage, and then you can, oh no, that one apparently doesn't do it. Okay, so there should be one that's just called channels. It's like the default that everything just gets dumped into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the bottom there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so if you right click on that, go to manage, and then browse channels.
Browse channels.
Then it's going to give you a full list of all of the channels in this workspace, essentially. And it will tell you if you're joined or not, and allow you to click the join button on the right side of each one if you would like to join them.
Yeah. So I'm trying to make sure that everybody new that comes in gets automatically put into all the channels. But the ones I added, like this one, I realized that I added this one, but I didn't add it to the defaults. So there's only, you can see like RMM tools. There's only 7 members that have actually taken a look at that. So that's, why we need to. I'm trying to work on getting to make it easier for y'all to find. Nobody's in that one because that's a different one. That's an external channel I'm in part of. But yeah, so you can see there's different varying numbers of people and different things. So I'm hoping the people can use the canvases and make it a little bit easier to navigate. You can also get to the canvases by going here, hitting this canvas button on the left-hand side, and then you can see what all the canvases are that are available to you. So I think if I go there, and then if I went to like the general store, oh nope, it still opens in a different window. Okay, doesn't make it easy on me to share. I don't want to share my big. I'm on a 48-inch monitor, so if I was sharing the entire screen, it would look very tiny to you. So I didn't share the whole screen. All right. Anyway, that's just a little tutorial. I'm going to I think at the the MSPCyberX town hall, which we're going to start our first town hall, our monthly meeting on the 16th, I think is right. Let me check my calendar. On the 16th, yeah, at 5 p.m. we're going to do our first monthly CMMC town, or CMMC MSPCyberX town hall, and I'll try to put together a little tutorial on the Slack environment for that. Everybody on the same page. All right, great. Well, thanks for joining me, and we'll keep these things going. So next one's on Thursday. So tell your colleagues, tell your friends. I should also say, I haven't advertised this widely, but I'm going to probably I'm trying to figure out how to properly announce it. But when if your company, if you or anybody in your company refers somebody else to MSPCyberX, we're basically providing credits to the company towards their membership, equal to 1 month of whatever the monthly dues are for the people that sign up that are referred. So like if the individual member joins, that's $100, and if a team of more than 3 join, that's $400 a month. That would be a $400 credit towards your continuing membership. So you can basically get a free year. All right. Cool. Well, with that, we'll let you go. Have a great rest of your day. That.